Odin, Thor, Loki, these Norse gods have gained significant attention in recent years due to Marvel movies. However, from the perspective of Norse paganism, these deities are not merely fictional characters but real gods to whom one can pray and seek guidance from. In this series of videos, I will be exploring the major Norse gods, beginning in part 1 with those belonging to the Aesir clan. Before diving into the specific gods, it's important to have a basic understanding of Norse mythology. While I will cover key concepts like the world tree, Yggdrasil, the nine worlds, Ragnarok, the end of times, and other central themes in future videos, we will start by looking at the origins of Norse beliefs. Centuries before the rise of Christianity, the Germanic peoples spread across much of Central Europe, inhabiting what are now modern-day Scandinavia and Germany. They shared a common culture, with their myths preserved through oral tradition. The spread of Christianity posed a threat to these ancient beliefs. However, when the Vikings settled in Iceland, where Christianity had less influence, their ancestral religion was safeguarded and eventually recorded in the 10th century through the Icelandic Eddas. These texts provide detailed accounts of the cosmogony, mythology, and traditions of the Teutonic and Nordic tribes. These early followers of the old ways were known as Aesir, an Icelandic term meaning those who follow the Aesir. Although Christianity eventually supplanted their religion, the old faith persisted in Iceland and Lapland until the 19th century and was revived in the 1970s. The Aesir faith continues to honor the gods of the ancient Norse and Germanic peoples, most of whom belong to one of three clans, the Aesir, the Vanir, and the Jötnar. There are also deities of equal power and importance who are not part of any of these clans, referred to as the others. The Aesir are gods associated with humanity and society, linked to concepts such as language, law, labor, and conflict, and are the most well-known in popular culture. The Vanir, on the other hand, represent humanity's connection to the natural world, governing fertility, magic, and nature's abundance. The Jötnar are deities of the wilderness, tied to raw natural forces like wildfires, the ocean's depths, and the earth itself. The others are connected to the most primordial forces in existence. The Aesir clan is the focus of this video. As gods overseeing all aspects of social life, culture, and the human experience, the Aesir are closely connected to concepts like writing, justice, and warfare. A common belief is that the Aesir are primarily warrior gods who favor warrior peoples and view battle as more important than anything else. However, this assumption stems from an incomplete understanding of the ancient world. In those times, everyone was expected to defend their homes when their communities were threatened, and the Aesir's warlike nature simply reflects these circumstances. It does not mean they are solely concerned with war, they are also deeply involved in other aspects of life. Though there are many gods in the Aesir clan, I will cover 7 of the major gods in this video, starting with Odin, the chief of the Aesir. Odin is the god of wisdom, war, death, poetry, and magic. He is known for his relentless pursuit of knowledge, often sacrificing much to gain deeper insight, including giving up one of his eyes. Odin's story begins when he and his brothers, Vili and Ve, defeated the primordial giant Ymir and fashioned a new world from his remains. Seeking profound insight into the mysteries of the universe, including knowledge of the past, present, and future, Odin understood that such wisdom could only be attained from Ymir, the guardian of a sacred well called Mimisbrunn, Mimir's well, located beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree. This well was said to contain immense wisdom, as its waters held the essence of all knowledge. When Odin approached Mimir and requested a drink from the well, Mimir demanded a great price for the privilege, one of Odin's eyes. Without hesitation, Odin gouged out one of his eyes and offered it to Mimir so he could drink from the well. After this sacrifice, Odin gained not only immense wisdom but also the ability to perceive the deeper truths of the cosmos, including the secrets of fate and the workings of the 9 worlds. From that day forward, Odin was depicted with only one eye, a symbol of his willingness to sacrifice anything, even part of himself, in his quest for knowledge. He is often depicted wearing a broad-brimmed hat pulled low to cover his missing eye when he isn't using an eye patch, along with a well-worn traveling cloak. From these early exploits, Odin became a restless wanderer, traveling through all the worlds in search of knowledge. His greatest achievement was gaining the runes by hanging from the world tree for 9 days and nights. Once he had mastered them, he shared the knowledge gained from his sacrifice with all the worlds, earning him the title, Hanged God. Odin was also interested in the magical arts and learned the magic of Seer from the goddess Freyja. Seer is a form of Norse magic and sorcery practiced primarily by the Norse gods, and in modern times, practitioners are known as Valvas or Psychona. Although he is celebrated as the father of victory, Odin often triumphs through cunning and trickery rather than direct combat, relying heavily on his deep understanding of magic. As the god of ecstasy, he is the patron of skalds, storytellers and poets in both ancient and modern Norse paganism, mystics, and fierce berserker warriors. He wields the mighty spear Gungnir, which has the power to grant victory in battle. All the Aesir swear their oaths upon it. Odin is accompanied by 2 wolves, Jerry and Freki, who devour everything set before them. His twin ravens, Hugin and Munin, meaning thought and memory, fly through the 9 worlds, reporting back to Odin all that they see. Odin rides Sleipnir, an 8-legged horse born of Loki, allowing him to travel effortlessly between the worlds. When he is not traveling, his home is the Hall of Hlidskjalf in Asgard, where a great seat grants whoever sits in it the power to see anything across the 9 worlds. 2 symbols closely associated with Odin are the Voknat, symbolizing sacrifice in his name, and the triple horn, representing his wisdom and cunning. Let's next discuss Odin's spouse, Frigga, the mother goddess known for her connection to hearth and home. With Odin frequently absent from Asgard on his journeys and often getting into trouble, Frigga plays a crucial role in maintaining the smooth operation of their household and community. However, her connection to hearth and home is only one aspect of her identity. Frigga possesses profound wisdom, as demonstrated throughout the sagas. She is the only Aesir who knows all fates yet chooses to remain silent, possessing even greater understanding of events and their causes than Odin. Frigga actively uses her knowledge to alter fates, bring favor to the worthy, outsmart Odin, overthrow tyrants, and protect her son Baldr from harm. Her mastery of the magical arts of Seer is well documented. Frigga resides in her own hall, Fensalar, Fun Hall, which is associated with wetlands and the treasures they hold. In ancient Norse society, keys symbolized power and control over access to restricted spaces, often held by women. They could unlock not just homes, but also treasures, tools, records, and secrets kept behind strong locks. As both the domestic goddess and the keeper of profound secrets, Frigga holds the ultimate key and is willing to use it at pivotal moments to achieve her goals. Her most recognized symbols are a weaver's distaff and a key. While Odin's strategies may resemble those of a high-stakes gambler, Frigga's plans are akin to those of a patient chess player. Her approach emphasizes careful observation, steady work, and methodical planning. For those engaged in endeavors that require these qualities, whether in studying research, managing a home, uniting a community, or hospitality, she offers valuable wisdom in matters of conduct. The most renowned and beloved of the Aesir gods is Thor, son of Odin and the Jotun Jord, known as the Thunder God. As the mightiest of the gods, Thor serves as the defender and protector of Midgard, Middle-earth, one of the 9 worlds and the realm of humans, against perilous forces. Among all the gods, he alone was known by the title, Friend of Man, in ancient times. He defends everyone in danger without prejudice and is known to welcome ordinary workers into his hall in Asgard, dismissing the more elite dead. Easily recognized by his mighty hammer, Mjolnir, and his iconic red beard, Thor is also associated with goats, thanks to Tangrisnir and Tangjostr, the 2 goats that pull his chariot across the sky. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, has a fascinating origin story. It was forged by 2 dwarven brothers because of a bet between Loki and the dwarves, during which Loki taunted them, claiming they couldn't create items that matched the quality of those made by another group of renowned craftsmen. The dwarves ended up creating several treasures, including Odin's spear, Gungnir, and Mjolnir, which was later gifted to Thor by Loki. However, during the creation process, a mistake occurred, resulting in Mjolnir having a shorter handle than originally intended. Because of this, Thor could wield it only with one hand and needed to wear enchanted iron gloves to grip it effectively. Though Thor possesses the raw strength to topple mountains, his immense power is greatly enhanced by his hammer, which is said to return to him after being thrown and is accompanied by lightning strikes and thunder rumbles when he strikes down his foes. In addition to its martial capabilities, Mjolnir also plays a ceremonial role, including blessing unions in weddings. Thor's spouse is Sif, the goddess of grain and harvest, which positions her as a fertility goddess as well. She is closely associated with those who labor tirelessly, such as farmers and laborers, as well as with individuals engaged in endeavors that require patient and steady effort to yield essential results, teachers, artists, students, and anyone involved in projects demanding long-term commitment and planning. Sif is noted as one of the few Aesir who has no conflicts with the other gods. However, one of her most famous tales involves a prank by Loki, who sneaked into the hall of Thor and Sif and shaved her head. To evade Thor's fury, Loki cleverly persuaded dwarves to craft new hair for Sif from gold. This act of shearing her hair is often seen as a metaphor for the harvesting of grain, directly linking her to agriculture and harvest. The most recognized symbols of Sif include her golden hair, her shorn scalp, the grain sheaf, the sickle, and the scythe. The next god to be discussed is Baldr, son of Odin and Frigga, who is one of the most tragic figures in Norse mythology. As the god of light, purity, and beauty, he is beloved by all the gods and considered a symbol of goodness. His presence brings joy to Asgard, and he is described as radiant, embodying the virtues that the Aesir hold dear. However, Aesir foretold that Baldr would die, which deeply distressed Frigga. In her motherly concern, she sought to protect her son by approaching all the beings in the world, including animals, plants, and inanimate objects, making them promise not to harm Baldr. Her efforts seemed successful, as everything in existence vowed to protect him. However, the trickster god Loki discovered a loophole in Frigga's protections. He learned that the one thing that could harm Baldr was mistletoe, which Frigga had overlooked because it seemed too harmless. Loki crafted a dart from mistletoe and sought out Jötnar, Baldr's blind brother. Disguising his intentions, Loki encouraged Jötnar to join in the games the gods were playing, where they took turns throwing various objects at Baldr, who remained unharmed. Loki then gave Jötnar the mistletoe dart, guiding him in throwing it at Baldr. To everyone's shock, the dart struck Baldr and killed him instantly. The death of Baldr plunged Asgard into deep sorrow. Distraught by the loss of her son, Frigga was determined to bring him back from the dead. Hel, the ruler of the underworld, agreed to release Baldr but only if every creature in the world wept for him. Though most beings complied, Loki, disguised as the giantess Thok, refused to mourn, thus preventing Baldr's return. Baldr's death was seen as a precursor to Ragnarok, the end of the world, during which many gods would perish. Despite his tragic end, Baldr's story is ultimately one of hope and rebirth. After Ragnarok, it is foretold that he will return to life to inhabit a new world free from strife and sorrow, alongside the surviving gods. The penultimate god to be discussed is Tyr, who is known as the god of justice. His most famous story involves the sacrifice of his sword hand to bind the great wolf, Fenrir, the offspring of the trickster god Loki. As Fenrir grew at an alarming rate, he soon became a source of fear for the gods. They worried that if he continued to grow unchecked, he would eventually consume everything, including the gods themselves. To prevent this disaster, the Aesir decided to bind Fenrir with chains. However, every chain they attempted to use was easily broken by the mighty wolf. Realizing they needed a more effective solution, the gods sought the help of the dwarves, who forged a magical ribbon called Gleipnir. Before they could bind Fenrir with Gleipnir, the gods knew they had to convince him to allow it. Tyr offered to approach Fenrir and negotiate. To persuade Fenrir to allow himself to be shackled by Gleipnir, Tyr proposed that the binding would merely be a test of strength and that he would be freed eventually. To further build trust, Tyr agreed that if he broke this promise, Fenrir could take Tyr's sword hand. When Fenrir allowed them to tie him with the ribbon, he found it surprisingly snug at first. The gods began to chant powerful incantations, reinforcing the binding. Fenrir struggled, but the more he fought, the tighter Gleipnir became. Realizing he had been tricked, Fenrir became furious and demanded that Tyr place his hand in his mouth as promised. Tyr, brave but aware of the consequences, placed his hand between Fenrir's jaws. When the gods confirmed that Fenrir was securely bound, Fenrir bit down, severing Tyr's hand. This act of sacrifice not only made Tyr the one-handed god but also effectively contained a great threat to the Aesir. Fenrir was imprisoned until Ragnarok, the end of the world, when he would break free to bring chaos. Tyr's loss demonstrates his willingness to make personal sacrifices for the greater good as a protector of justice. His most recognizable symbol is that of an open hand, representing what he lost to Fenrir's jaws, alongside the rune Tiwaz. The most infamous of all the Norse gods, often considered the equivalent of the Christian Satan, is Loki. Frequently viewed as the harbinger of chaos, he was originally one of the Jötnar but was accepted as a member of the Aesir due to his status as Odin's sworn blood brother. His role as a catalyst for change is a recurring theme in his stories. These narratives typically follow a consistent pattern. Loki initiates an action, sometimes for his own amusement or to meet an immediate need, which then creates a problem. He resolves these issues while also acquiring or generating something that ultimately strengthens and enlightens the Aesir. Two of Loki's most defining traits are his shape-shifting abilities and ambiguous gender. He can take on both masculine and feminine forms. For example, he transforms into a mare, seduces a giant stallion, becomes impregnated, and gives birth to Odin's steed, Sleipnir. One of the most famous stories involves Loki crashing a feast and publicly calling out the gods for their failings. In retaliation, the gods slaughter Loki's children, binding him with their entrails and imprisoning him in a cave until Ragnarok. When that fateful day arrives, Loki leads an army of the dead into battle, while his offspring, Fenrir and Jormungandr, unleash chaos. These actions could be interpreted as making Loki a clear enemy of the gods. However, they reflect his consistent theme of challenging outdated norms and clearing the path for necessary change. This is particularly true of Ragnarok, an event that is both inevitable and unavoidable. A common symbol associated with Loki is the interlocked serpents known as the end snakes, which perfectly represent change and transformation, qualities that are deeply fitting for this complex deity. In a follow-up video, Part 2, I will discuss the other Norse gods from the different clans. If that interests you, please give a like and subscribe.